Hey everybody, it's your English teacher, Mrs. Klein, and I am filming outside today because I just did a test and there's no feedback out here. So hopefully that means this video will not be haunted. All right, so today's story is a little bit spooky, so here's a spooky intro. Beowulf. All right, so last class we got towards the end of A Hero Arrives. We knew that Beowulf made it to Hrothgar's hall and that Hrothgar and Beowulf bonded over the fact that Hrothgar had once saved Beowulf's father, Ecgtheow. Now, I am filming outside, and so there are some outside noises, but we're just going to deal with it. All right, so Beowulf finally greets Hrothgar and says, "Hail to thee, King Hrothgar. I am Beowulf, kinsman to King Hygelac. Many deeds of note have I done in my life, and now the reports of the monster Grendel have brought me to your land. For strangers from over the sea have told us how this fair hall stands empty as soon as evening falls. 'Twas my comrades who put the thought in my heart, for they had seen my valorous deeds, how I had conquered the foes of my country." And now he talks about the things he did before he came to Denmark. "I had brought the race of giants low and slain monsters on both sea and land." So in the version we read in class, it said that he raided a troll's nest, bound 5 beasts on land, and killed sea monsters. "So now I am come, my lord king, to fight single-handed against Grendel. More I have heard that the monster, dire in his wrath, has no regard for weapons." So he wants to fight Grendel single-handed, and he knows Grendel does not like weapons. So he says, "Therefore I shall carry neither sword nor coat of mail to this battle. With grip of my hands only will I confront this enemy, struggling with him life for life. But who shall live and who shall die, let it be as God shall will." Then Beowulf goes into kind of more graphic detail about what would happen if Grendel wins. This isn't really usual. We don't typically hear this, but here he goes. "I doubt not, O king, that if he has his way, he will devour the champions of the Geats, even as he has those of the Danes. As for me, thou wilt not need to lay my body in the earth and raise a mound over it, for he will surely carry it off to the moors where he dwells and devour it." So Beowulf is saying, if Grendel beats me, he's going to eat me. I know it, so don't worry about trying to bury what's left of me. "Only I pray thee to send back to King Hygelac my armor, for it came to me by inheritance, and Wayland, the smith of the gods, wrought it in the old time. But that which fate has ordered shall come to pass." All right, so that's question 17, and it's worded a little bit differently. But what do you think Beowulf means when he says, that which fate has ordered shall come to pass? Or I believe on the questions it says something like, fate goes ever as it must, something like that. And the armor he's talking about sending back is his chainmail and then probably his helmet, which would have been a metal helmet. And so he's saying, my body's going to be eaten and destroyed, but send the metal back to my king. So now Hrothgar responds, "Often have my warriors boasted, merry with their drink, that they would stand up, sword in hand, against the monster. But when morning came, lo, the hall was bespattered with gore, and the benches reeked with blood, and I was the poorer by many brave men." So Hrothgar is saying, I've heard people tell me before they could kill my monster. "But I pray thee, hardy heroes, sit down to the feast." So he's saying, I've heard this before, and those men got eaten up, but fine, go ahead, eat and drink and be merry. So they're eating and they're drinking, but then one man, a Dane, he's not so happy with what's happening. So he stands up and he addresses Beowulf. And this man is Unferth. "Art thou that Beowulf who contended with Breca in swimming on the open sea? 'Twas indeed foolhardy, yet no man could turn you from your adventure. 7 days and nights ye toiled one against the other, but in the end he prevailed, for he had the greater strength. The waves cast him ashore on the land of Herthoram, whence he journeyed back to his own kingdom. So I predict a worse adventure for thee, though doubtless thou art a sturdy warrior in the shock of battle, if thou dare to await Grendel's coming through watch of night. So Unferth is saying, I don't think you can kill Grendel. You couldn't even beat Brecca. Beowulf is not impressed with what Unferth had to say. Look at that man. He is not impressed. So he responds, surely the ale can hath wrought with thee, friend Unferth, that thou hast said such things about Brecca. So ale can means beer can, but this kind of bothers me in the graphic novel because they did not drink beer out of cans. That was not such a thing. They drank out of horns. So that's just sort of a modernization in the translation, which upsets me. But essentially, Beowulf is saying, Unferth, you're drunk, sit down. But I say to thee that in buffeting the waves of the sea, I have more strength than any man under heaven. Now hear the truth. This Brecca and I in our boyhood were wont to talk of this, how we would test ourselves against the sea, and we made agreement to contend one against the other. So we swam, each holding in one hand a sword to defend himself against monsters of the sea. Not one whit farther than I could he swim, nor could I outpace him. So Beowulf is saying they're tied. So for the space of 5 days and nights we swam together. But on the 6 days the floods parted us, for the wind blew mightily from the north and the waves were rough. So on the 6th day they got separated. So I was left alone, and the rage of the sea monsters was roused against me. But my coat of mail stood me in good stead against their attacks. In grimmest grip did one great beast seize me and drag me to the bottom of the sea. Yet strength was given me to pierce the monster with my sword, and I slew him. And so it came that I slew with my sword 9 monsters of the deep and escaped with my life. Never was a man more hardly pressed by the waves of the sea or put into greater peril of death. Spent with swimming, I was finally cast upon by the tide upon the land of the Finns, and I have heard of no such deeds as done by thee, Unferth, son of Edgelaf. So the graphic novel stops there, but there's a little bit more in the full text, and this is the answer number 20. Beowulf goes on to say, now I cannot recall any fight you entered, Unferth, that bears comparison. I don't boast when I say that neither you nor Brecca were ever much celebrated for swordsmanship or for facing danger on the field of battle. You killed your own kith and kin. Okay, so that basically means that Unferth killed his own family. So for all your cleverness and quick tongue, you will suffer damnation in the depths of hell. The fact is, Unferth, if you were truly as keen or courageous as you claim to be, Grendel would never have got away with such unchecked atrocity, attacks on your king, havoc inherit, and horrors everywhere. But he knows that he need never be in dread of your blade-making mizzle of his blood, or of vengeance arriving ever from this quarter, from the victory shielding's shoulders of the spear. He knows he can trample down you Danes to his heart's content, humiliate and murder without fear of reprisal. But he will find me different. I will show him how Geats shape to kill in the heat of battle. Then whosoever wants to may go bravely to mead when the morning light, scarfed in sun dazzles, shines forth from the south and bring another daybreak to the world. All right, so after all this boasting, Hrothgar the king says, never since I first laid down my right hand to the sword and bore the shield in my left hand have I given this hall of the Danes to any man to keep. And now I give it in trust to thee. Do thou keep it as befits its grace. Be of good hope, be valiant, watch for the foe. So he basically says, like, he's always been the keeper of the hall. He's never let anyone else take charge of it, but he's going to let Beowulf do it to see if Beowulf can achieve victory that night. So as Beowulf said, he's not going to wear any armor. He's not going to use any weapons, so he strips down to just his underwear, and he lies down awaiting Grendel, puts all his weapons away, speaks to his men are watching guard, and then, boom, Grendel appears, breaks down the door, and comes in. And to see what happens next, we're gonna have to read.